Ultimately, I'm always right.
He was right. Again, this is a great rule of thumb. Remember, he's always right. And he was right about all that cash going to the Bidens. Yeah, you heard about it by now, right? Now, this has been certified as correct by the House Oversight Committee, and $3 million that originated at that energy company sent to an account of a friend of Hunter Biden, and $1 million of this liquefied and sent to various Bidens. Who was on this? Very, very early on. Yes, Trump was. Let's go to the debate, fall of 2020.
I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
Yeah, what is that all about, huh? All right, Joe Biden, what is it all about?
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Oh, about that, huh? Mr. Integrity was lying to us. It's very interesting. Actually, he did not say, President Trump, that your son's making money in China. He said you are. And then he goes right to the son about making money in China, huh? He was busted. He was busted. Trump was right. By the way, did you see the body language there when Donald Trump mentions China? It's pretty wild.
I don't make money from China. You do.
You know, people saying the quiet part out loud, it's an amazing thing. And that's what Trump did. That's what he does. $3 million came from that company, liquefied in the months after Joe Biden left the vice presidency. Now, that's been established by the committee, the Oversight Committee. Now, we should point out that, folks, we've known about this for a long time, that millions of dollars were flowing from China to the Bidens. It's been documented even in certain corners of the fake news. The Washington Post a year ago, inside Hunter Biden's multi-million-dollar deals with a Chinese energy company. Let's go through the story, please. Number one, signed a contract on August 2nd, 2017, stated that Hunter Biden would get a one-time retainer of $500,000 and would then receive a monthly stipend of $100,000, with his uncle James Biden getting $65,000 a month. The bulk of the money, about $4.8 million, was directed over a 14-month period, usually in increments of $165,000 to an account linked to Hunter Biden, the documents show. Now, you got to go hunting around for this stuff in the fake news because, look, they know how to emphasize things, and they also know how to do stories, checking the block, and nobody ever talks about it. They know how to get some momentum going, and they know how to dissipate all momentum. By the way, the Bidens, first they denied doing anything in China, then they said they did something in China, but they made no money. And now the White House itself confirms that the Bidens made millions in China, and it's only going to get more interesting from here. Very interesting. Maybe even this clip will be fully explained. Listen to the sense of entitlement this lost soul has. Hunter Biden talking about his partner, one of the richest men in China.
I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Koh, the spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded, and is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment and signed a $4 billion deal to build the largest LNG port in the world.
He's so indignant that he's been left in the lurch somehow. I mean, I'm Hunter Biden. I bring a lot of My dad was the vice president. He's going to be president. That's what he brings to the table, all right? And that's why the Chinese were interested in him. They were interested in getting these guys compromised, in owning them, and I think they do. Now, did they break the law? The fake news bends over backwards trying to say that all this stuff is not illegal, and maybe it's not, but that's actually not the point. But boy, oh boy, do they love this excuse.
Do you have a crime that you think Hunter Biden committed? Because I've yet to see anybody explain it is not a crime to make money off of your last name.
How about that, right? That just if you don't commit a crime. It was not a crime when Eric Swalwell was hooking up with Fang Fang. He was allowed to do that. It was a colossal mistake in judgment and put national security at risk. And he is now a national joke as a result and will never have serious responsibility ever again. But he did not commit a crime. Is that the threshold for Joe Biden, right? Did you do anything wrong? Is that it? Did you commit a crime? This guy told us he was Mr. Integrity. He had far more integrity. He was known for it. That's why he was Lovable Joe. Well, he lied like crazy. That was his... Lied like crazy all the time.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about the overseas business.
I've never spoken to my son about the overseas. This is why he gets very, very angry, because not only was he talking to his son about his overseas business dealings, he was doing business with his son. Doing business. We know that now. And he gets very angry, and the question's raised because not only talking about it, but actually doing it.
How do you know?
Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. And he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me.
The anger, he wants to get angry so you don't ask him the next question or more questions about what's going on with his son and with him. And beyond knowledge, what are you doing? Are you profiting? When the question gets up, he goes to anger, and it actually works.
How is your role as vice president in charge of policy in Ukraine and your son's job in Ukraine? How is that not a conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest. There's been no indication of any conflict of interest from Ukraine or anywhere else. Period. I'm not going to respond to that. Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing that no president has ever done. No president.
And that anger actually worked. I mean, think about the last couple of years. They didn't focus on him. They didn't ask any real questions about this. They focused on Donald Trump. By the way, we have the proof. I'm sorry, but I think this is proof from the laptop. 10% held by H for the big guy. Hunter Biden complaining that he had to give half of his salary to his father, complaining to his family. And this email from Hunter Biden to the management team of an office building where he was renting space. Please have keys made available for new office mates. New office mates. Who are those office mates? Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Jim Biden, and Gong Wendong, Chairman Yi of the CEFC. Office mates? I think you work with people you're in the same office with, right? They were working together. I mean, what's the other explanation? Let's learn a little bit more about this Chairman Yi guy. His name has been coming up a lot. Who is he? Very rich man, very influential, and big-time ties to the Communist Party. Chairman of that energy company, one of the richest men in China, ties to the Chinese military and intelligence services. Yet, for some reason, he wanted to meet Hunter in 2015. This guy. Why would that man with those credentials want to meet Hunter? Oh, and he did. He had an emissary reach out to an associate of Hunter's, and here's the email. We know that this is the real deal. Number one, I've had difficulties in reaching Hunter recently, so I would have to ask you a big favor to convey this message to him. Next, on Sunday, December 6th, I will have a private dinner in D.C. with an old friend from China, Yi Zhimeng, one of the 10 wealthiest businessmen in China. He is the chairman and majority owner of CEFC China Energy, a second largest privately owned company on Shanghai Stock Exchange. He's very young and dynamic with the top level connections in his country. They have recently started making big investments abroad, billions of dollars, and plan on doing much more. I would like to invite Hunter to join me at this dinner. Private, small dinner. This is not an event of any kind. I am confident that many interesting projects may come out of that in the future. Hunter Biden, the opportunity of a lifetime. Why again does he want to talk to Hunter? Why this guy? You know why? Because Joe is vice president and they want to get to Joe for influence or maybe to even compromise the vice president. The Chinese are known to do this. They get them entangled, and then these people feel more loyalty to those who are paying them than to the countries where they have huge positions of responsibility. $4.8 million can do that. It's all starting to make sense, especially when Joe goes around not talking about China as our adversary that probably killed 2 million people across the world, including over 1 million here in America because of COVID. No, these are good, close friends.
I've spent more time with Xi Jinping in China than any world leader has. When I was vice president all the way through to now, over 78 hours with him alone, 9 of those hours on the phone and the others in person, traveling 17,000 miles with him around the world. I spent more time with Xi Jinping than any other head of state. And I'd always be, when I traveled with him 17,000 miles, spent 78 hours with him, they'd tell me. I spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has. Over 76 hours, we traveled 17,000 miles in China and the United States together.
What good has this done anyone, this alleged close relationship, other than the fruits of the money going to Hunter? Why boast about it? Maybe his target audience is President Xi. I'm still on your side. He's not acting in our national interests. And I think he's compromised because of all this money, all right? What the Oversight Committee has documented and what we have documented. So the balloon, a couple of weeks ago. Remember the balloon? Seems like it happened 1.5 years ago. It was just last month. The balloon comes through. And people were concerned, understandably so.
And breaking news, the Pentagon right now is tracking a Chinese spy balloon that is flying over the U.S. President Biden asking for military options.
Pentagon officials are telling CBS News tonight they are monitoring a suspected Chinese spy balloon that's been flying at high altitude over the U.S.
On alert. The government tracking a Chinese surveillance balloon roughly the size of 3 buses flying over the U.S. The Air Force mobilizes F-22 fighter jets. Will we shoot it down?
Big stuff, right? And clearly a danger to our national security. And just bad optics. It looks bad. But Joe, if you notice, didn't really seem to have a care in the world about any of this stuff.
Chinese surveillance balloon that went across the country. You ordered our military fighter jets to shoot it down off the coast of South Carolina. But Republicans are saying you look weak. Mike Gallagher, the congressman, said
he's an impressive guy, isn't he?
Inexplicable that you didn't shoot it down earlier. Marco Rubio said it was dereliction of duty. Now, to immediately tell the public about this.
You see what he's doing? He's chuckling. He's not taking it seriously. They accuse him of dereliction of duty, inexplicable inaction, and he's laughing. He stops laughing when they bring up his boss, though.
Have relations now between the U.S. and China taken a big hit, frankly?
No.
It's interesting how he's kind of clamming up. Doesn't he have a message on this? You just, no, relations are fine. He doesn't even say that. It's very strange here. He's worried about an audience of one, President Xi, and maybe a few other rich people in China. Next.
How do you know?
I know. I talked to him.
You see, he seemed to imply that he just talked to President Xi. I know, I talked to him. This happened a week ago, so I talked to President Xi. So I know that our relationship is fine because I talked to him. That's what he's trying to convey. Fair enough? He's deceiving us.
You've talked to Xi
Talked to Xi
Jinping?
Jinping before, and our team talks to their people.
I talked to President Xi before. Before what? This interview. I talked to him before. Our people talk right now to his people. He wants her to move on. He's trying to deceive her and us. Next.
During this and
Yeah,
since?
after this. I haven't talked to him during this.
Oh.
All right, see how I haven't talked to him during this. Talked to him before. I talked to him, and then I talked to him before this interview, and then I haven't talked to him since this. He's slowly getting caught in a lie, actually. Next.
But look, I mean, the idea of shooting down a balloon that's gathering information over America, and that makes relations worse. Look, I made it real clear to Xi Jinping that we're going to compete fully with China, but we're not looking for conflict, and that's been the case so far.
You know, when you have maybe a son or a daughter who has a job and, you got to watch what you say about their employer, or that's what's happening here. He's compromised. There's money, millions and millions and millions of dollars that have come from the Chinese. That's why he's trying to laugh this off, deceive, and not take on the Chinese, as is his responsibility as the president, don't you think? And remember, he lies about the small things and the big things.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
So the great thing about telling the truth, you never have to remember what you said. All right? So Hunter Biden's own lawyers yesterday say this. Hunter Biden, a private citizen with every right to pursue his own business endeavors, joined several business partners in seeking a joint venture with a privately owned legitimate energy company in China. Legitimate. As part of that joint venture, Hunter received his portion of good faith seed funds, which he shared with his uncle, James Biden, Haley Biden, with whom he was involved, blah, 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 blah. In another word, busted. Joe busted again in a great big fat lie. But this one could get people killed, Americans killed. It's jeopardizing our national security, your entanglement, your family with all this stuff. Stakes are very, very high. What's going to happen next? I don't know. I'll be right back.